Welcome, I'm Lindsay Davis, personal development coach and yoga teacher, helping aspiring, heart-centered creative entrepreneurs reconnect to their vision, energize their bodies, and balance the challenges of their everyday lives. Today, I'll be sharing a talk I had recently with Catherine Eichel of Eichel Photography. Catherine's a photographer in Colorado I've met, who specializes in commercial work, weddings, and families. Really, she specializes in adventure. When she says she loves hiking, let me tell you, it's true. She loves hiking up big mountains and taking her camera to the wildest destinations she can find. And she has the stories to back it up. She's backpacked all over the world and is always looking for a reason to jump on an airplane and explore a new culture. When she's not photographing and sleeping under the stars, Catherine is hanging with her senior citizen pup, Henry James Noodleman, dreaming about delicious cheeses or catching up on the massive pile of books by her bedside. Who is Catherine to me? Well, right away I was struck by her enthusiasm for life and her can-do, authentic spirit. The more I've gotten to know her, the more I truly appreciate her story and her strength. I'm so excited to share this conversation we had together around the theme of embracing the uncertainty. I can think of no one better equipped to speak about this theme than Catherine, and I think by listening, you'll see why. This is Inspired Conversations. Let's dive in.
Lindsay, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. First time doing something like this, so really looking forward to it.
Well, thank you for being game. I appreciate that. Yeah, so just as a way to introduce people, I thought what would be really fun is to ask you this question. If I really knew you, I'd know.
Okay, if you really knew me, you would know that I am terrified of heights, actually. Despite being a mountain climber, for most of my life, and I still have these moments for sure, if I would get on a 6-foot step ladder and get on the third rung, I would be absolutely paralyzed with fear and be unable to move.
And you're right. That does surprise me because you scale these peaks, and I always see you perched on. Yeah, that does surprise me.
I have crawled on my hands and knees on many a scary ridge. Actually, I have cried on.
Respect. That makes me respect your adventures more. Yep, love it. So how did you, I know you as a photographer, so did you do something before photography? Tell me a little bit about how maybe you got into photography.
Yeah, I'd love to tell you that story. And I think it's actually, really kind of ties into some of the other topics that we want to talk about. So I was actually an environmental engineer for 10 years. So I worked with municipal and private clients doing water and wastewater treatment management and business consulting. And something I did as part of that career that really fed a lot of the things. So I was kind of fortunate enough to have enough free time to do a lot of activities outside of engineering. So I think people see me now as really adventurous in all aspects of my life. But while I was doing engineering, I was very adventurous in things outside of my work. So I volunteered for Engineers Without Borders, which is a very similar, if you're familiar with the concept of Doctors Without Borders. So we travel all around the world. We travel to third world countries and we develop water or sewage systems for them as they need. So I, for years, I had really significant leadership roles in that. And that's actually, I found it very difficult to push myself in my career. It was a very structured environment, but Engineers Without Borders is really somewhere where I could take on a lot of leadership, a lot of really scary leadership opportunities, and really push myself and test myself, and do things that I'd never done before. So that was something that really kind of started to shape my mindset. Mm-hmm. So my regular career in engineering, just as I was doing more and more adventurous things and pushing myself harder and harder outside of work, it just started to not be enough for me. I just kind of looked around at people that were 5, 10 years ahead of me, and I'm like, I don't want to be doing the same thing for the rest of my life. I don't want this. And it kind of, I knew, like, I had this really deep restlessness inside me. And I'm sure a lot of men and women can relate to this. You get so far in your career and you've kind of ticked off some goals that you thought you wanted to accomplish, but when you're laying in bed at night, you're like, is this all there is? This is the rest of my life? Like, really? And I just was kind of haunted by that. It's like the first thing I would think about when I went to sleep at night and when I got up in the morning. And everything sort of solidified for me. I was working really hard in my career, working 70-hour work days, as a ton of people do, trying to tick off my company, like the list that my company had for, promotions, quote unquote, and all that good stuff. And I had moved to an area. I moved to DC. They really needed somebody there. And I moved for them. I'd taken a pretty substantial pay cut just because of the cost of living there, blah, 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 And I had a annual review, and I was like, "You're doing great, but we can't give you any more money, and we can't give you any more promotion, and keep working really hard." I was like, "Wait, what?" And at that point, I was just like, "Why am I doing this? Like, why am I pushing myself so hard to meet someone else's agenda that I'm not even sure I care about? Like, am I really serving the things that I care about serving?" And I realized I wasn't 100% sure with what those are, what those were. But I think because I'd really pushed myself to do other things, I kind of had some ideas about what I wanted. So that's actually the first thing I did. I actually, before I thought I was going to go to photography, before I started doing photography, I thought I was going to go back to grad school for international business. And that really tied into the work that I had done outside of engineering with the international travel and that kind of thing. So one of the exercises I did to get ready to go to grad school, which ended up being really kind of fundamental in my entire life, is what I call like a freedom inventory. Okay, so I think everybody's familiar with that feeling of being in the flow. Like when you're doing an activity where you feel so good and you feel so alive, you feel so free, and you're like, this is how I should feel every day. Like, I feel great. Like, ideas are coming to me. I'm like all smiles. I can be so generous in this space. So I looked at all the activities where I felt that flow, where I felt that freedom. And I was like, what are these activities? What are the traits of these activities? What are they in common? So I made a list of those things. And just some of those things were being creative, problem solving, service to others, collaborating with a team. I work so much better with other people where I can bounce my ideas off other people. And those were, for me, those were what made me feel free, what made me feel alive. So that definitely didn't give me the pathway. Like, I didn't list down all those things and then it was like, boom, you should be a photographer. Like it didn't work.
We wish, right?
Yeah. Right. Like a big, like it just, like the list formed a big arrow. Like, this is your next step in life. So I didn't know what the step was going to be, but I knew, I had in my mind, putting that list down on paper for me was like, this is what you need to be focused on. This is where you need to be. The next step in your life needs to have these items in it. So I planned to go to school. I had gotten a full scholarship to the Thunderbird School of Global Management. It was all about it, and then I took a little sabbatical in Colorado, and this was pretty significant. I had, and I think this is probably something that we don't do, especially as women. I've always had an artistic streak. that I'd sort of suppressed so I could meet my daily life bread goals or whatever, so I could buy all those high heels because that's so important now in retrospect, right? And I finally gave myself permission to actually spend money on a camera. Not a super nice camera, amateur camera, but it was a couple $100, something I would never spend normally. And I had done that too prior to doing all this, and that was pretty significant. So really the first time I took a portrait, so I gave myself permission to actually spend money on that. Took a class at a community college, took a portrait, and really then I knew. I think really inside it clicked, but I was like way too scared to like really do anything with it. But then when I moved to Colorado here, I started taking more and more pictures of friends. People started actually wanting to pay me money to take photos, which was pretty mind-blowing. And I just realized I can do this. I was like, I can probably do this. And I was like, I think in my mind, I just realized if I don't build a photography business, if I don't try to make this work, I will regret it for the rest of my life. I will go to my grave thinking, what if I did do this? And I've never regretted it. I've never looked back ever. So I think for me, it was just a lot of those things were just doing it, just experimenting were really, really important in all those phases of my life. Like, that you look back and you're like they always say, like, it's a straight road looking back to where you are now, blah, blah, whatever. But that was definitely a common denominator from how I got here. So yeah.
Yeah. I love so much about that story, Catherine. Seriously. I love that you made this freedom inventory. How very engineer of you, and I love that you started tracking in that freedom inventory. Like what I'm hearing is like your values. Mm-hmm. What was actually really important to you? Because what wasn't doing it for you was that fast forward of like a default. Like if I continue on my default path in 10 years, 20 years, how has that met my values?
Yes.
And like not liking that. And I know a lot of people that I talk to, they have a lot of guilt almost around the fact that they want more than what's currently happening for them. Almost like that means that they're ungrateful or whatever. And because their daily life, and I'm really even hearing yours, it's not that bad. It's giving you a stable income, a great way to give back in the world. Did you have those qualms of like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah. I felt, I had so many opportunities as an engineer, and I feel very grateful for that experience and the people that I met during that time in my life. Still, I got to go to college. I got to pursue this great career. I get to travel around the world, and I got to meet amazing people that are still very much a part of my life and are top-notch people. The great thing about the engineering world is everybody there is so conscientious. Like, oh, I love that. And I did feel that definitely. Something else too, I think that maybe some people might feel, and this was certainly something I wrestled with initially. I went from a career that was super pragmatic, right? It's water and wastewater. It is like the fundamentals of life. Going from that to taking photos, kind of a luxury product, right? And I did struggle with that initially, like, am I wasting my education? But for me, there's a couple of things. For one, I was a good engineer. I'm very much a people person. And that's not.
I can see that. Yeah, I get that.
That's not typically a skill that engineers have. So I really, I think, was like a good team member because of that. And very positive, which is also not something that engineers always have. So I was able to kind of like be like, okay, guys, like we can do this, like we got this, we're gonna nail it. I think that while I was an okay engineer, I was a good engineer. I'm an amazing photographer, and I'm an amazing, like, I'm there during people's family photos and during their weddings. These are like times in their life that are, they're these incredibly special moments, and I'm just the right person to be there in those moments with them. I feel those moments with them. If things go wrong, I can pick them up and help them through those moments, and then capture it to them and deliver it to them. So while I was a good engineer, I'm an amazing photographer. Like, that is the zone that I needed to be in the whole time. And to me, that erases really any guilt, because I'm kind of contributing as my best self, like, um, I think we get caught up in kind of dimming our light because we feel like we have to check these boxes or serve these things that are really serving anybody. And I am a firm believer. I'm a firm believer. Like, this world could use all the good that you can give it. So find, and it's going to be a system of trial and error, right? To find your best self. But once you find it, like, run to it, give everything that you have, because the world needs your light. That sounds so corny, but the world needs absolutely every bit of goodness that you can give it. So yeah, so I definitely understand that, but just realize that too, you're also, it's not, you're not throwing away your past, you're not throwing away the gifts that have been giving you. Those are going to contribute to your current life experiences. Now they're going to make you a wholer, richer person, capable of giving more. um, and that's where we're all best,
Jeez, I love this, and I love your energy and your perspective around this. I almost don't even need to be here in this conversation. I'll just give you the microphone and let you go. Um, I love though that, like, you just really, what you just said was like, I was a good engineer, or is it, but I'm an amazing photographer. And that's really that hindsight now of finding your place of genius and flow and your highest contribution. and and yet that was like forged in uncertainty, and like you said, that mindset of like, all right, I'm just going to do it, all right, I'm just going to experiment with this. And I love that you highlighted in your story that, like, you really didn't know. You didn't come out of the gate, at age 5 saying, I'm going to be an amazing photographer. Some people do have that experience. But I think, like, the vast majority of us that find our path find it through uncertainty and experimentation. And we have these glimpses, like you taking your first portrait, this glimpse of like something's there, like something magical just happened. And we kind of draw back. We're like, ooh, I'm too scared what that could mean, and all of that. But what I heard was this, for you, a willingness to keep exploring, to keep experimenting, and that's led to what you do today.
Yeah, and I think, I'm sure people have heard this before, but getting comfortable with anything, absolutely anything. So I learned how to drive stick at age 34. Okay, and like, the first time I went on a highway, I was like peeing my pants. I was like, I don't want to do this. Uh, but now that's what I drive. I'll never drive anything else. And it's just doing it over and over again. But it certainly works the same way. There's like no magic to embracing uncertainty, except that just live in uncertainty. So that, for a lot of people, I think they think like, okay, I have to abandon absolutely everything I know and start like sell all my possessions, and that's actually what I did, but that probably doesn't work for everybody. So I think, the things that helped me a lot in that is that I always like, I I always had like a little bit of a love for uncertainty. And the reason why is because uncertainty equals possibility to me. Mm-hmm. So if you don't know what the outcome is going to be, your mind can absolutely go to the negative, right? You can go to everything that's going to go wrong. And that you're going to feel stupid and you're going to feel humiliated and you're going to feel embarrassed if you fail and blah, 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 all that good stuff. Like, it's there. It's totally there. But flip side, what if you succeed? And what if I'm doing things that I never imagined doing, even when I started out wanting to be a photographer. What if you succeed? Your mind can go to that. And actually, your mind probably can't even imagine all the possibilities of what's going to happen if you succeed. Like, there's going to be vistas that are going to open to you that you're never going to have imagined. But you're never going to get there if you don't take those risks. So I think just doing small things that you feel uncertain about. And we all have those things where we think about, we're like, we know we should be doing this, but we're not for X, Y, and Z of a reason. Just do it. Just do it. Even if it's like a small thing. So Lindsay, like you mentioned, like I'm like a mountain, we talked a little bit, I'm a mountain climber and I view mountain climbing as the same exact way. Mm-hmm. So when you're right up next to a 14er, you can't see the peak 99% of the time because you're too close to it. You don't know where you're going really, but you're just taking a small step forward and then another small step forward and another small step forward. And there's going to be hard parts, but the thing is it gets easier and easier. And, you just keep taking those small steps. And I know that sounds oversimplified, but really that is the whole magic behind uncertainty. It's just taking those small steps and getting comfortable. And now, to be honest with you, like I talked about Engineers Without Borders, that was like a small risk of uncertainty for me. I like joined a women's rugby team as an adult, small things of uncertainty. And it were those that kind of gave me that confidence. Like, I can take a bigger life risk. Mm-hmm. I can be like, yeah, I'm going to quit my career where I'm making a great salary and be a photographer and jump into it. But it was because I had those smaller life experiences that I knew like things are going to work out. And if they don't, well, I learned something and I'm going to walk away from it and be a richer person because of that experience. So I think it's really just doing it. Like you said, Lindsay, when you have those sparks, you have those small sparks, it doesn't mean, okay, you have to go into your job tomorrow and quit it because you had a small spark. But if you you feel that way when you're baking a cake for somebody, then do it on the side. Like, just take those small steps. And the thing is, you in your mind, you'll have a million reasons why you shouldn't do something. Like, we all have that. And you will also have friends and people who are acquaintances and everything else tell you a million reasons why you shouldn't do something. Mm-hmm. If I had listened to every person who'd been like, everybody can buy a digital camera these days. Like, cool, they're not me. That's what I think in my mind. I'm like, sweet, good for them. They're not me. Cool, like, and that's you just have to be like, okay, great, thank you for your opinion. I appreciate that, but in my heart, I know I'm on the right pathway. And so all that to say, you're definitely still going to have days where you're like, oh man, I'm on this pathway. It's really hard and this really sucks and I want to quit and I'm by myself and I hate this. And that's okay too. That's okay too. But just get back on the horse the next day and keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And, even those, like you said, those doubts that come in, and even like a lot of times the feedback that you get from friends and family, like it's really well-meaning. I think they're trying to protect us from like financial and social ruin, which is really great and so appreciated. But I'm really hearing such a solid commitment for you to what was really on your path and what was aligned, even if it really didn't make sense. Do you feel like that came by practice? Were you born this way? Like,
no, so as an engineer, I always would say, I am the person who is, I always had a really strong boss and I was always their right hand. And I was like, that's my personality. I will never be in the forefront of anything. I love being behind the scenes. I love implementing. I'm not creative enough to have the ideas. I'm not brave enough to sell business. The first thing my boss said to me, one of my best bosses, he's like, Catherine, you gotta kill what you want to eat. Like, you have to go out and earn your own jobs. And to me, that was the most terrifying thing a person could say to me. I was like, I have to go out and get work by myself. I was like, no, I'll write 1,000,000 reports. I'll make 1,000,000 presentations, and they'll be the best reports and the best presentations you've ever seen. But no way am I going to go and ask somebody for business. And now that is all I do.
Funny. Yeah.
So you are capable of so much more than you think that you're capable of. And I did not make that leap overnight. It was doing small things, and having small successes, and also having a lot of no's and a lot of failures too in between that. But knowing that those failures aren't going to kill you. They're just small setbacks that you're like, okay, this didn't work out. Either I need to do something different or I need to ask again. And half the time it's just asking again and again and again and again. And people just be like, okay, fine, I'll let you do it. No, I definitely was not born that way. Not something that was in my personality 5 years ago. And that's why I say, like, you can't imagine where you're going to be in 5 years. Like, I'm not the same person that I was before. I'm a completely different, much stronger, much more confident person than I ever thought I would be, which is pretty mind blowing. But yeah, and your friends and family will give you advice because they do want you to be safe and protected, and they want what's best for you. And in their mind, that might be a much more limited version of yourself. And that's, like you said, that's fine. That's fine. But at the end of the day, they're not the ones living your life. They're not going to be the ones on your deathbed with you being like, well, I'm really glad we chose that safe pathway. Like, it's going to be you by yourself examining your life decisions and being like, could I have lived a completely different life? Could I have been a completely different person? And that's kind of, for me, that's my motivation. Like, what kind of life do I want to lead? What kind of person do I want to be? And not everyone is going to have that same vision for you, and that's okay. Like you said, Lindsay, they're totally well-meaning, but you have to do what's right for you, even if that is upsetting to other people in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it is worth highlighting, honestly, that you weren't born adventurous and willing to play with uncertainty, because I do feel like that is what stops us, or what stops a lot of people, is this idea of, well, that's great for her, but that's just not the way that I am. And I really love what you just said about, you don't even know where you're going to be in 5 years, but you also don't know who you can actually be. And that's that space too of uncertainty, where you said there's that relationship between uncertainty and possibility. Because you don't know where we're going to be and who we're going to be, but then it's infinite possibility.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the most exciting part, is that, right, there's this whole world of possibilities you can't even imagine. And like you said, not just for opportunities, but also for yourself. So yeah, one of my favorite, like, Jerry Seinfeld, of all people, he's on this song of this rapper that I like, and he's like, it's like any growth, you're not going to be ready for it, and you're going to be a different person at the end of it. Like, you can't prepare yourself for growth. You can't look at a checklist and be like, these are all the possible outcomes. Or you can. I mean, if that makes you feel better, you can try to quantify it, and you can try to think of every outcome and how it's going to turn out before you take that step. But the thing is, it's life, and you don't know.
You're still going to have to just choose to take the step.
Take the step. And like I said, it can be a little step. And I will say, like, I was not adventurous in my career decisions, in my relationship decisions. I dated the same guy for 9 years, all the way through high school and college. Like, I was way too scared to do anything else. Career, I switched from an English major to an engineering major so I could be sure I got a job outside of college. Like, I was all about security. My childhood was incredibly insecure. So I was all about, like, yes, check the boxes, get this done, get married, blah, 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 blah. But deep inside me, there was something that wanted more. And I just had to listen to it. But you can build that confidence and that comfort level through those smaller risks that you're taking. You don't have to divorce your husband and quit your job to find life fulfillment in 6 months. That's not what you have to do. But taking the small steps and like listening, like Lindsay, I love that so much. Like what you said, listening to your sparks, listening to those sparks and being like, okay, I'm going to explore this. I'm going to volunteer to do this. I'm going to work for somebody for free to do this, even if it's 2 hours a week, whatever, but just experimenting with those small sparks and seeing where they take you. And they'll take you places that you never thought you would go.
Mm-hmm.
They will. If you're committed to it and you're meeting people who are passionate with you, which you will, because you'll be doing these activities and you'll run into other people and they'll spark ideas in you and they'll be like, well, hey, have you tried this? Those things will really, and then you'll look back 3 years from now and be like, what was I so afraid of? I don't even remember. But yeah, just you can take those little steps towards your sparks. Just fan the little sparks.
Yes, agreed. And there's also, I think, a real beauty to playing with uncertainty and dancing with it, because you can release such a tight grip on the outcome. And it's almost like we have this death grip that, like, I'm not going to be a photographer unless I can be a world-class photographer within 5 years. And we have like, and I'm not saying don't have specific goals or dreams, but I think there's like a real beauty to like let go of the outcome, because it's something that is enjoyable to you. It's something that's allowing you to play in your zone of flow. That's really balancing that challenge outside your comfort zone with the competency that you can build to get there. And it's your way of giving back to people. And I really even hear that energy in the way that you take pictures with people at these momentous events. And you're the person, like you said, to be there for them. And no one can be Catherine but Catherine. But yeah, I think there's that like release of a rigidity around outcome.
Yeah. So I set goals every season. So, we live in Colorado, so we have to obey seasons, right? So I set photography goals every season, and along with other fitness and other goals too. And it's mostly to learn new skills, to be honest with you. So that's kind of what drives my goal setting is, and that's one of the things that attracted me so much to photography, is that you can never stop learning in this field. And I assume that's true for other fields too. So I try to learn new competencies every season, because I feel like it will serve my clients better. Like the more competent I am, the more skills I have, the more problems I can solve for my clients, and the more creative like vistas that we can reach. But I will definitely say that the picture I had for my business when I started was so much smaller than the picture I have for it now. And it's definitely been expanded by working with, and I'm sure I'll be saying that same exact phrase in 5 years from now. In 5 years, I'll be like, I would have never imagined this is where I'll be. But I do think it's definitely worth. So I think something that's been of super value to me, more than being like, okay, I'm going to have $50,000 in revenue this year, and I'm going to book X number of clients and that kind of thing, is working with other people in the industry who I really admire, and seeing how they work and how they think, and what they deliver to their clients. And it's not, I don't want to be any person. Lindsay, like you said, for me, I want to be myself. That's, I want to be my best self with my clients. That's who I want to bring to every single shoot, every single session. But I do think, though, that you just learn so much, and especially from people who have been doing it for years, but still have that fire inside them. And I'll say this too, is like kind of like, I guess, like a helpful practical tip. A lot of those people that I've worked with, I've worked as their assistant. I've carried their bags. Like I've driven their clients around. I mean, done grunt work that I know a lot of people in their mid-30s would be like, well, no way I'm doing that. But I'm like, I'm just gonna do, I just want to spend time with this person. And then also I've worked for them for free. You know, I've come out and assisted for free. Just shown up and half the time, honestly, I've gotten paying jobs out of it because they've seen my dedication, that kind of stuff. But especially if you're feeling like we were talking about, if you're feeling stuck, those are steps you can take. You can volunteer your time with somebody that you really admire, and I guarantee it's like an investment worth making. But don't be afraid to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, but back to kind of the uncertainty and divesting yourself from the outcome. I think it's just easy to get locked into like comparison with others and their outcomes and their goals. And I think a lot of it is just, this sounds so corny, but it's just appreciating the journey. And it's just going to take you to places that you've never thought you were going to go. And you have to be open to that, because if you're so tied to a specific goal or specific outcome, you might miss these other opportunities where it's something you really like wanted to do the whole time and to be super focused on it. So that's kind of my mindset around goal setting. I think it has a value, but I don't think it's a life plan, I guess.
Yeah, agreed. I so agree with you, and which might get me fired as a life coach. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think there's such a value to being able to speak to what you want, and also hold the space that it might be something completely bigger.
Yes.
That you don't even realize yet.
Yes.
And that we can let go of those other goals because something more amazing is happening right now in front of us, and allow ourselves to see it and experience it and embrace it. I so agree. And I'll join you with the corniness, embracing that process and that journey. I know it's so overstated, but it really is, because you fall in love with the process of uncertainty, because you know that it's growth, and you know that it's expansion, and you know that it's generosity, and getting to meet really amazing, inspiring people that you never have to compete with ever. And getting to have these stories, even the failures turn into these crazy stories, because you've metabolized that failure into part of the journey. And there comes, I think there's a real like inner swagger that's not pride, but it's like, I think it's a trust that it's all going to be really okay, and you're going to figure it out, and you don't have to have it figured out in your head right this second.
No. Okay, so Lindsay, first of all those things that you said just now, like, speak to me 100%. But I do feel like at the beginning of my journey, like, there's no, like, I would have been like, what are you talking about? Like, what is she talking about? But, I think for a lot of people, I hear this all the time, and it makes me cringe inside. As you get older, like, your world gets smaller, your options get more limited. And I feel 100% the opposite way. Like, I feel like the more, and this is embracing uncertainty, because the more you go into, like, the more doors open to you. And I just like, so like when people are like, yeah, like, I got locked down with my kids, and then this, and my house, and my mortgage, and I got to buy all these bed skirts or whatever, like, it just makes me so sad inside. I'm like, you're missing this whole other world. There are so many life pathways. And oh shoot, yes, you definitely develop this inner swagger that things will be okay. And I think something for me, so despite having this inner swagger and everything else, you will have those really bad days where you don't get any new customers, or whatever, you get rejected from some place that you really wanted to work with or whatever. But I think in that case, it's just the way I kind of try to, or a helpful tool for me is just like, it's not going to happen overnight. It's all part of a process. And I just try to keep that longer perspective in view at that time. That's really where I'm like, it's going to be okay. Like, I knew I wasn't going to come out of the gate being like a $500,000 a year photographer. And I think you have to have that expectation too. Like, it's going to take a while for things to work out for you. And that's okay. That's totally okay. As well. So yeah, those are just
And I appreciate you bringing that in, that you do have your bad days, because I think it's so easy to be like, oh yeah, they're so positive, they're so motivated, so committed, but there's real bad days, and there's real like rejection that happens, and some rejection stings a lot more than others. And at the end of the day, we're still human. Like, as much as we can say, well, don't take it personally, sometimes it does. It feels like, should I be doubting everything about my business and my vision and my life and who I am as a human? And I think there's a real wisdom into letting the hard days be hard.
Yeah.
And not trying to fix them right out of the gate. Like, well, you shouldn't feel that way. It should be easy, and try to positive spin it. Just let it be hard. Like, let yourself actually get knocked down. And then I love what you said, but you have that longer vision to where you realize those hard days really, what do they change about what you're doing or the way that you're living? You're going to get back up.
Right.
Eventually, right? Like, however long that takes, but you're going to get back up. You're still committed to what's important to you.
So I'm a part of like a lot of online photography boards, which has been a super helpful tool in my life. And I don't know if other industries have something similar, but it's been great. But I've seen on those boards, many very talented photographers be like, I just can't do this anymore because they have a bad day. And maybe they're venting, maybe after that they go to their computer and they're like, okay, I got this. Like, I can figure this out. But I think it's a shame. Like, I'm like, you need to be doing this. Like, you're amazing at this. So it is having that inner resilience, and it's fine to have a bad day, and it's fine to cry, and it's fine to, if you have a support group online, to get onto the support group and see, this really sucked today. Has anybody else had this experience? Or to talk to your partner or whoever, whatever makes you feel better. For me, if I'm stuck in a rut, something that's super helpful to me, I don't know why this works for me, but I have a lot of like industry specific podcasts, and I'll listen to those, and like, they'll just be talking at the beginning and I'll be listening, and then I'll kind of zone out and like start thinking about all the new things I could do based off that one idea. And I'm sure that's not what the original recorders intended, but that works for me. So if you, I think it's helpful to recognize those things that make you feel inspired again. And I've definitely had those days where I burst into tears and I've been like, oh, this is so stressful. Like, am I ever going to make it? Am I ever going to be, whatever? Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I'll look at a picture and just be like, God, this picture sucks. Like, I suck, but you look at it and you're like, okay, next time I'm going to do this differently. And next time I'm going to, do it. But yeah, give yourself that time. Give yourself that time to cry and to eat chocolate or do whatever you need to do, and then figure out how to get back and do it again. But yeah, you're not alone. You're definitely not alone in those moments and those experiences. That's something that happens to all of us. And being a creative entrepreneur, doing like these are lonely times sometimes. I mean, they are really lonely sometimes. You're by yourself, you're behind a computer. You might be at a coffee shop, so you might have your little like mocha latte or whatever, but it's not a lonely journey. Absolutely.
I love and I love this like idea of like loneliness and realizing that you're not the only one. And there's a story, and I can't really remember at this moment who it was, source amnesia. But they were telling this story about, people who get stage fright and totally bomb it, or people that wake up and have like this whole rejection day where everyone's telling them no. Or like you said, a really terrible picture. Those really hard days, but really realizing actually, though, that makes you a part of a really cool group of people. And you might feel like you're going through it alone, but look at the people that are having significant failures and keep getting back up. They're really actually a pretty cool group when you really know. So it's like your tribe. And so every time that you fall down and get back up, you know, well, still part of the tribe of people that are putting themselves out there and trying stuff.
Yeah. I think that like, and this kind of is like a good tie into a lot of the other things that we were talking about. But I always talk about like there's a knife edge that you walk between complete terror and like complete exhilaration. And like that knife edge is where all the exciting shit happens. Sorry, I don't know if I can curse on
this. That's okay. Headphones, everyone.
Leave that out. Okay. But that knife edge is like where everything fun happens. Because you might fall off and totally bomb, but you might go to the other side and just do something that blows you away. Like nothing is more exciting when your client looks at a photo and it's just like, this is neat. Like what? Like what did this, where did this come from? But you have to walk the edge to get there. You have to do it. But the more, and really like you're saying, the more and more you walk that edge, the more you get addicted to it. Like you're like, I don't want a regular life anymore. This is what I want. And those no's get easier and that rejection does get easier. It just does. You just get used to it and you're like, whatever, cool, okay, new thing, let's do this. Mm-hmm. So it does, as crazy as it sounds. And I guess this is like, like what, like people who jump out of planes or whatever, they're doing their crazy thing. You get addicted to that life that is so exciting for you. And you don't want a regular life anymore. You won't want to go back. You won't want to go back to stability and comfort. You'll be like, die there. I'll die.
Yes. Yeah. Because that's just homeostasis or like this flat line. Yeah.
Enough for you. It won't be enough for you at some point. Yeah.
I agree. Well, thank you so much. I feel like we could just keep talking about this topic and so much more, like just scratching the surface. But I really, really appreciate you being willing to open up and share your experiences and your incredible mindset. I know you have a really special quote. Can we end with that? Do you have that in front of you?
Hold on. Can I have a minute to pull it up? Or do you have it in front of you?
You bet. I have it in front of me. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, I'd love that.
Okay. It won't have your awesome voice, but we'll see. So, trust the wait, embrace the uncertainty, enjoy the beauty of becoming. When nothing is certain, anything is possible.
So good. It's not my quote, but it's definitely, I didn't even know it, but that's been my life mantra for the past 3 years. And
yeah, it's your life mantra, that North Star.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I really feel like this is a valuable conversation to have and to share, and maybe here's to many more. Thanks, Catherine.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Yeah.